Good morning and welcome to our first Municipal Recycling Coordinator meeting of 2024. This webinar has been approved for 2 CRP meeting credits. Attendees must stay logged in for the duration of the meeting. Move on to the agenda. So as you can see for today, we have a packed meeting. We're going to start with just some program updates. We're going to move right into tips on the Municipal Tonnage Grant reporting process. That'll be from Maura, our Assistant District Recycling Coordinator. Brianna, our Recycling Outreach Coordinator, will review with you some of the things that we found from the 2024 Municipal Tonnage Grant reports. We'll then move over to Erin Jensen from the DEP, which will explain the 2023 tonnage reporting process. We'll take a short 10-minute break, and then after the break, we'll go over planning for recycling at new construction projects with Christy Tragno, Chatham Township's MRC. We'll then follow up with Joe Schmidt from the Morris County Division of Public Health, talking about some program updates and recycling education. And we'll close out with some information on our 2024 Class A facility tours. So first of all, I wanted to let you all know that coming March 1st, we're going to be moving to a new home. Apparently we partied too hard at our current location and we had to move out. So our new administrative office will be at 370 Richard Mine Road in Wharton. So make sure that you correct any of the information you have. Feel free to come by and visit when you have the chance. I'd like to go over our new customer support page, which is straight on the top bar of our website. This will allow a lot of your residents and people that you direct to our website to get some real up-to-date questions and answers. They can select that support page. It'll allow them to register for any hazardous waste drop-off events that any hazardous waste drop-off appointments at our permanent facility. They could get up-to-date information on transfer station hours and schedule some appointments for mulch and compost, along with a whole slew of other support functions. So definitely feel free to utilize this new service with your residents. Next, I wanted to go over one of this year's County Recycling Enhancement Act requirements. This is a carryover from our work last year, which is to encourage and assist our municipalities to improve the accuracy of your own recycling websites, the potential recyclable materials that can be accepted in your programs for your residents and commercial institutions, and provide easy-to-find instructions and links for recycling information and information on the DEP's recycling pages. So last year, we contacted each one of you and asked for some basic updates. I'm giving you a very dense slide here, but just so you see that this is what was compiled from all of our interactions. What we did was ask you some basic questions on who your curbside hauler was, your MRF, where you were going, if your depot, if you had depot services, who picked up, what we found from some of your Recycle Coach pages, if there was errors on there, and some corrections that needed to be made from your own municipal recycling websites. So what we presented here was our submission to the DEP from our interactions. So as you can see, again, it's very dense. So how did all of this information help us out? Well, a lot of this allowed us to answer any specific questions that came into our department. So if a resident called up, we were able to answer a lot of the questions on your recycling programs from that information we collected. Updating our own recycling webpage. It also allowed us, for any information that we received in for what was acceptable and unacceptable in your programs for each one of your MRFs, we translated that information out to each one of you. Any one of your residents that called in, any one of your subordinates, or any of the programs that you have. So if it was a green team or a environmental commission, we could relay that as well. We gave that same information over to Recycle Coach and the DEP, so it definitely helped there. It also allowed us to schedule tours at most of the MRFs where each one of your recyclables are brought to. And it also allowed us to invite those MRF managers to our second MRC meeting in May. So it definitely helped out. What we're going to be doing this year is a follow-up from last year, is we're going to ask those same questions of you again, just to provide an update. So basic questions, like we asked before, who your hauler is, if you still offer services, if anything changed. We're going to ask you once again to go through the MUA's municipal contact page. We'll go through it with you, update the information there. We'll use that same information to update any of the Recycle Coach pages that you have. We'll ask you to go through it as well, because there's some information that we might not be knowledgeable on that you would know better for your own municipality, but we'll help you with that process. And then any edits to your own municipal recycling subpages, we would ask you to review your own page, make sure it's accessible to your residents, you have applicable links, and any of the information that's on there is correct. This is just an example of where you could find each one of your municipal recycling pages on our own MUA website. And again, we'll post this PowerPoint at the end of the meeting so you're able to find all the links that are contained within. Small example of what that looks like on our MUA page. I've used Chatham Boroughs as an example. And then this is the contact information for Kim Stewart over at Recycle Coach. So if you don't already have an administrative account, which allows you to utilize a lot of the free services that the DEP provides for you with the Recycle Coaches program, I would definitely recommend that you take a look into it and sign up. And you could do so by contacting Kim Stewart right there. And lastly, I just want to talk to show you all that we have posted our 2024 hazardous waste drop-off event days. If you haven't received that already, it's posted on our MUA webpage. We have submitted that out to Recycle Coach, so at least they have the dates. And I believe Cheryl has emailed each one of you with the new guide. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Maura. She's our Assistant District Recycling Coordinator, and she'll be speaking to each of you about tips for the Municipal Tonnage Grant process. So Maura.
All right.
There you go.
Thank you. So again, my name is Maura Toomey. I'm the new Assistant District Recycling Coordinator, taking over for the great Chris Fidel. I have only met a couple of you in person, so I look forward to meeting more of you and working with you in the future. So we're going to be focusing on tips for the Municipal Tonnage Grant process, because the goal is to make it as easy as possible for you to track down tonnage so that you can report it to get credit for what we're already recycling. So I'm going to go through some of those suggestions that we have for you, and they're all on our webpage, and I want to make sure you're able to find them. Especially because we just made some updates to the webpage, so I want to show you some of those first. The first thing is actually navigating to the webpage that we have. That'll have all the resources that you will need. So you're going to go to our website, MCMUA.com, and on the home page, you'll see this Municipal Recycling Coordinators link, and that'll take you directly to the page where you're going to find everything that you need. Once you're on the page, it's going to look like this. And one of the new features we have is a calendar that has all of the events that are going to be helpful for you to know about, including our MRC meetings, our facility tours. Cheryl's going to go into some of the upcoming events later on. So before we move into the tonnage reporting resources, I just want to talk briefly about some of these responsibilities. If you haven't read the solid waste management plan in a while, might need a quick refresher. Some of these were surprising, even to us after going back through it. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware of your basic responsibilities under the plan. So number one, every year you're going to complete your recycling tonnage report and send it to the DEP. Every year, every 6 months, you're going to notify generators of all recycling requirements and opportunities. One of those must be a direct mailing. So that's important to keep in mind. You're going to want to perform 3 recycling investigations every year. Every year, you're going to submit 3 things to the MUA. One of them is a copy of the recycling tonnage report that you're sending to the DEP. One of them is a copy of the notifications that you're required to send out to generators in your town. And the last one is you're actually required to submit a recycling and solid waste program report to us. If you want more information on what any of those things are, we have links directly to the section in the plan where you can get more information on that, or, contact us and we're happy to discuss them with you. And then the last annual requirement is you have to attend one MCMUA MRC meeting, which you're already taken care of, and it's already the end of January, so you're already doing a good job. All right, so every other year, you are required to attend a tour of a Class A recycling facility. That's this year is one of those years, so we have those planned out. They're on the calendar, which we'll talk about later. And then when you do that, you're also required to sign a statement certifying that you attended and that you plan to attend in the next required year. Every 36 months, you have to review and revise your master plan. Surprise. Again, you can read more about what that means in the plan. As needed, if your town does not have a municipal recycling coordinator, you are required to fill that position. And if you don't have a designated enforcement coordinator, that could be the same as the MRC. In some cases, it's not. But if you don't have that person designated, then you are required to do that. Next, this is a periodically, we would let you know if this would be required to go out and do a site visit and generate a recycling status report. Again, we would let you know if you are required to do that. And then the last ones are if you are also the enforcement coordinator as well as the MRC, you're required to, in addition to doing those 3 recycling investigations, you're going to submit a report of illegal dumping, solid waste, recycling enforcement activity from that year to us, as well as a list of everyone in your municipality who is obligated or, capable of being an enforcement person in your town. All right, so those are our basic minimum requirements. So now that we have reviewed that, we're going to just go right into the tonnage reporting process. This is further down on that same page, just directly under it. If you're actually on the website, you'll see that if you scroll down. The first thing that you'll want to take a look at is the DEP Tonnage Grant webpage, which Erin was going to go into later on. I just wanted to make you aware that we have a direct link on our webpage, and it'll bring you right to it. And this will have at the top the guide that you're going to want to take a look at, because that includes this information, which is about how much you're going to get for the tonnage report. And I just wanted to bring this up because this should be inspiring all of you to get as much tonnage as you can, because this will show you how much money you're going to get back to improve your recycling programs in your town, improve our recycling rates. So I wanted to include that, but it's important to keep in mind that these are subject to change. These are, estimated. It's not going to be exact. It's just to give you a general idea. All right, so we've just added the 2023 page for this section. This is recycling tonnage reported by different markets. So this is very important information that we gather together on tonnage that we put together for you to use in your reports. The 2023 page is still being updated with some of this information, which is coming very soon. But this is what it's going to look like if you went to it today. And as you can see, if you scroll down, you see we already have 2 reports that just came in, but we're going to get a lot more in, and we'll update you as they come in as well. So I wanted to use the 2022 reports just to demonstrate, because there's a lot more there. So this is what it would look like if you click on the year. The first thing that you'll see is the recycling tax paid by your town. We include that because this is, there's a section in your report that you're going to need to fill in this information. So it's all right here for you to access. All right, next, this is where we have our recycling tonnage from MUA facilities and operations, and they're by different categories and organized by town. So the very first one, summary by town, that's really your curbside materials, your single stream stuff. This is just an example, but there's one for each town. And the amount is actually the amount that's like broken down of the single stream materials actually comes from our single stream breakout tool, which is similar to what the DEP has, but because Morris County has actually less contamination in our recycling stream, if you use our tool, it's going to get you more tonnage that you can report. So that's important to know. But also keep in mind that our tool was developed from an audit at Republic. So if you are at one of the towns that does not use Republic, you're going to want to use the DEP tool just to be accurate. All right, let's see. All right, in the next section, you'll get to, oh wait, I just want to mention, in addition to the single stream material, if you go down, you've got tire recycling by town, vegetative waste by town, household hazardous waste, and e-waste. So don't forget to report on those as well. And they'll look similar. All right, next is reports that are submitted from various markets and generators. Usually a generator is required to send their reports to the town. However, they often, all of them end up going to the state, which then we get. Cheryl works on tracking them down and updating them. So we try to have as many of those here as we can track down to make available for you to use. But these will have, all of the information of what these individual, companies, markets generated from your town. It's listed by town. However, it's important to know that sometimes they use the common name for the town, such as Whippany or the zip code. So you're going to want to go through and make sure you're actually getting everything from your town. And they may be listed in cubic yards, so you may have to convert that over to tons in order to, to report it. It's also important to know that we don't get reports from every single market or generator. So that's where you come in, where you're going to have to reach out to generators in your town. And we have a couple of resources on our page that will help you do that. You're going to want to reach out to your fire officials so you can get a mailing list. You can go through and take out some of those addresses that don't really need a letter from you, like parks. And then we actually have a sample letter on our page, which is circled here, that you can use. You can print it out on your official town letterhead. You can edit it if you want to, and you can use this to send out to the towns, along with this form that we have here, which they can use to report all of their tonnage to you and send it back to you. Another tip is you can include your email and ask them to email it back to you. That way you have their contact information for next year. And you also want to include this flyer that we have on our website as well, which lists all the mandated materials, just to remind them of what they're required to do with recycling. You're going to want to try to reach out to as many as possible, cast a wide net so you can track down as much tonnage as possible to report. You can look at your reports from last year to make sure you're not missing anybody. You can contact departments in your town to see if there's any recycling programs that you might be missing. For example, the police department might use a shredder you could reach out to, or restaurants might be recycling cooking grease, anything like that, you can find out by reaching out to them. They might know about it. And then contact waste haulers that, you know, are in your town to see if there's anything else you can add. Let's see, just some reminders, but Erin will go over, you know, some of this too, and it's all in the EP page that you can find. Applications are due April 30th, can be revised by June 15th. So keep that in mind. You can always check back at some of those pages because sometimes the reports come in late. You can always go back and revise it to add more tonnage if it comes in late to get more, and you have till June 15th to do that. When you're sending things to Erin, always copy Cheryl as well, so that we're officially getting our reports from you. And if you need to discuss any of this further, please reach out to us. I'm gonna then pass it over to Brianna, who will elaborate. What's the response?
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a good morning, and I'm just going to be kind of going off of what Maura was speaking on with the tonnage and talk about the tonnage that we reviewed last tonnage season and how you can kind of use that information to help you this season. So Chris Valedell and I went over a couple of the town's tonnage, and we used these rates that Maura showed. These are the ones from last year, in order to figure out what you might be missing and how much you might receive from those products. And then we did use these resources that are posted on our website, as well as the MCMUA program reports, in order to look over some of the reports that we received and see what might be missing. And using this information, we did find that quite a bit of tons were left out. So we reviewed the ones that seemed to be missing the most and seemed to need the most help. So just from these towns, which was 12 out of 39 Morris County municipalities, we found 25,803 tons of missed tonnage reported just from the information that can be found on that MRC webpage that Maura showed. So that's not even including the extra things that you can put in the extra work to find. That's just what we provide to you. And from those tons, $29,000 were missed in the how much you would receive from those rates that we looked at. And with that, those tons that were missed, we could have brought Morris County's recycling rate from the current, what it was at 43%, all the way up to 48%. So just from 12 towns, we already got only 2% away from what is our recycling rate goal, which obviously is pretty good. So you want to make sure that you're really looking at the information that we're giving to you and reporting it properly so that you can get this money and so that we can get the proper recycling rate and everyone can get credit for what they're actually already doing. And then I just wanted to show, following that, some of the things that you could use that money to pay for. So some of those things would include salary for MRC staff, purchasing recycling containers, food waste initiatives, maintenance to the recycling programs, management of the compost sites, tire amenity events, and then other things that go along with the recycling process. All of these things, if you had that extra money, could have gone towards. So you just want to make sure that you're really looking into everything in depth and making sure that you're getting credit for everything that you're already doing. So that is what I found, what me and Chris found, but what I'm reporting to you. So hopefully you guys can take that and use that this tonnage reporting season.
Okay. Thank you, Brianna. More. Really great job. All right. So next we're going to have Erin Jensen from the DEP speak to you all about the 2023 tonnage reporting program. Going to stop sharing my screen here and I'll make Erin a presenter.
Morning, everyone.
Morning,
You
Erin.
guys hear me? You can hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. So let me just bring up my presentation. Here. All right. Hopefully you can see everything correctly.
Yep. Looks good.
Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know, my name is Erin Jensen. I'm with the NJDEP, and I manage the Municipal Tonnage Grant Program. You guys have already gotten a lot of great information today from the MUA staff. We've had a lot of great tips. So I am going to go through my visual guide, which goes over the details of the application process for the tonnage grant. We have not changed anything since the previous years. So if you've already done this, you probably know everything, but it's always good to get a good reminder. I'll try not to go too crazy into the details. But if you have any questions, put it in the chat and then I will check that out at the end of my presentation, mostly because I cannot see the chat while my PowerPoint is up. All right. So I don't know if anyone's been on the DEP site, in the last bit, but we've done a lot of upgrading, kind of coming in to the new technology out there and making our website a little more up, current. So this is just an example of what the new web page looks like. Everything for our program is under AIMS, which is Air, Energy, and Materials Sustainability. That's the group that we fall under. So, and then you can go, there's a lot of information here, obviously, but we're under recycling and planning. And then this is our resource page. This this is where the upgrading to the website has stopped so far, and this is in the process of being updated as well. So you'll be seeing within the next few months probably some updated web pages, but all the information will be the same. So when you get to this landing page, there's a lot of resources. There's news that you could see kind of at the bottom left here. This is an older screenshot, but we do keep that up to date with anything recycling related in the news or changes with DEP. We try to keep that up to date as best we can. We also have some links here to Recycle Coach, which was already mentioned today. So that's a free resource for you. And then we also have the WasteWise Business Network. So if you're not a part of that, it's a free thing. You get a lot of email updates with news articles and information and things that are created specifically for educating people that you can put on your websites or your social medias, flyers, etc. And then they also have meetings throughout the year with different businesses that are, sustainable or environmentally friendly, and they do they have some really great meetings. I've learned a lot there, so it's always a good recommendation for me to join that WasteWise Business Network. And you can also access any e-waste information from this page as well. This will take you to the eCycle webpage. But for now, we're going to go to government and schools. And this is even more resources for you. Everything, we have contact information, links to the recycling laws. Again, you have the WasteWise Business Network, but you also have the Association of New Jersey Recyclers, or ANJR. We also have promotional resources here. So our sustainability team creates these monthly. They're free resources with all different education for not only recycling, but other environmental issues. They create new ones every month, I believe, and post them here, where it says promotional resources for recycling. So I always recommend taking a look at that. We also have Sustainable Jersey, the Recycling Awards, the statistics webpage that we'll kind of go into in a little bit. There's a lot of links here for you to go through. But as you see highlighted, we're going to go to the Recycling Tonnage Grant link here. And this is a screenshot of all the different attachments we have on that webpage. We have not only the application forms, but we also have the guide for the program. I highly recommend people reading through the guide, especially if you're new. But even if you're not, you haven't read it in a long time, a lot, I would say like maybe 70% of the questions I get have answers right in the guide. So it's a great quick resource, you don't have to wait for a response from me. Just take a look at the guide. And I make sure it's updated every year for the new program. We also have training information. So this copy of this PowerPoint is the third attachment where it says training for application forms. So if you want to go back, I know they said they're going to post it on their website as well, but if we ever need a quick link to it, there's a PDF version of it on this website, and all the links will be clickable throughout it. So you can click on the links in the presentation. There's also like more of a written basic instructions. That's the second PowerPoint PDF here on the list. You also have obviously your application forms, which we're going to go through. And then at the bottom, you have a couple of extra resources where it says MTG recyclable material types and codes is a list of the 30 materials we track and their code numbers if you need that. We have a PDF conversion table. The definitions can be really helpful if you're not sure, if you have a material and you're not sure which category it falls under. The definitions go through all the material types and lists a lot of examples. So something you're looking for might already be covered there. It's always a good thing to look through. And then the last thing is your standards for municipalities. That lists all the responsibilities of being an MRC, and you'll need that for reference later once we get to the certification form. So I'll talk about that a little later. So the first one is going to be, the first thing we're going to go through in depth is the actual tonnage grant form. You just have to click the icon and it downloads. You have to enable content and enable editing on your spreadsheet. So depending on the version of Excel you're using, this might look a little different. So if you have a newer version, it'll probably look a little bit like what you see here with the yellow bars that'll go across the top. If you have a much older version, it might be a pop-up. So just note that it could look a little different. You do need to enable everything to be able to use things like our drop downs and things that we've included in the spreadsheet. And then once you do that and save it, you don't have to do that again. So once you save download everything and enable, you want to save it as your municipality name and then the year and anything you want after that. People like to name things, how they like to, but we do ask that the name starts with the name of your municipality. That is something I'm going to mention a lot throughout this presentation. If you've heard me do this before, you've heard me say it about 1,000,000 times. It saves me a lot of time renaming documents if you save everything with your municipality name and then what the document is. If you don't have to go specific as like borough of or town of, just your town name at the beginning, because I save that in a folder and then I can easily go back and find your town's tonnage report if I need to. I still, even after all these years, I do spend a lot of time renaming documents. So this will just make everything a little bit quicker if you guys name everything correctly. So we're going to go a little bit over the tax information right now. As you can see, the application coming up is for 2023. You're going to be reporting the recycling done in 2023. And that goes as well for your REA tax information. The Recycling Enhancement Act tax is $3 a ton on all solid waste disposed of in New Jersey. That money funds this program along with many others. There are a couple reasons that we ask for this information. The first is that the law states that your grant cannot be less than the amount of REA taxes you paid that year. The only way we can get that information is from you. We aren't able to get it through Treasury or any other means. It is not a required field. If you leave it as $0, that's fine. You'll still get your grant, and it'll be based on the actual tonnage that you submit to us in the application. Or you can put it in and then we'll compare your grant to the tax, and you'll get the larger of the two. There are many ways that people get this information. Sometimes the county may provide it, or your solid waste facility might provide it. Your CFO might track it. It might be built into different contracts you have. It really varies depending on, you know, where you get your solid waste information from. If you don't have it through any of those means, and you can't figure it out, you should still be able to find your solid waste disposal tons for 2023. You can multiply that by $3 and get an estimated tax, and you could put that in that field as well. There are plenty of situations where people don't pay the tax. Mostly it's towns where the residents get their own solid waste contracts. So the town doesn't actually pay anything, the residents pay that directly. And in those cases, you would leave it at $0 anyway. And again, that's perfectly fine. It does not affect your application being submitted to us. The next portion we want to go over is the signature portion. The law states that the application does have to be signed by a CRP or CRC, certified recycling coordinator or certified recycling professional, means the same thing. So the way we do that is we put text boxes in here that you need to fill in your information. So we asked for 2 different signatures. The first you'll see highlighted in red is your completed by. This is the person that actually completed this application and filled in all the data. They have all the backup documentation. You know, sometimes it might be the same person that's certifying. Sometimes it may not be. So whoever that is, we need their name signed in that red section. That's important for us because when we have questions later, which happens a lot, we want to go to the completed by person to ask the questions because they have all that documentation. And then in the yellow section will be your certified by. So whoever the certified person is that's not only signing this, but they're also going to be submitting the application to us. So you have to be certified to submit the application. If the person certifying it is different than the person that completed it, whoever completed it will send it to that certified person. They need to review it, make sure there's nothing missing, make sure everything's completed. They need to sign their name in the yellow section and then submit the entire application to us. So that's how the signatures work. This is just an overview of what it looks like here. You have your signatures, your years filled out, and now we're going to get into actually entering all of your data in these rows. So going column by column, you have your county, you have your municipality. Copy and paste works the same in any way that you're traditionally used to doing it in this type of spreadsheet. You have your sector, which is where the material was generated. So that's going to be residential, commercial, institutional, and industrial. So residential and commercial are pretty straightforward. Institutional is things like schools, government offices, retirement homes, all types of things like that. You also have industrial, or what I put in as factory. And that can be a little different depending on what your town is set up as, you know, what kind of businesses you have. You see factory and you think this huge industrial park or something like that, but a lot of times industrial can still be a smaller business. It really just depends on what they're doing. And we'll kind of go over the details of that in the next slide, and a way to just figure out if something is commercial or industrial. Then you have your material types. There's, like I mentioned before, there's 30 different ones, including a material not listed section. So if something you have doesn't fit, there is an option basically for other. And then the most important column is your actual tonnage. Again, you want to, like it says here, you want to make sure it is in tons. And I know this was mentioned earlier as well. Things like pounds, gallons, cubic yards, you want to make sure to convert all those to tons. when you're entering them here. Things to look out for is things like your yard waste or, brush and stuff like that. A lot of times does get reported as cubic yards, so you want to double check those. Things like textiles tend to get reported in pounds, so those are just another thing to look out for. And then the most common one we see is used motor oil and antifreeze. Lorco is the #1 reporter I see of that throughout the state. So if you do get a report from them, it is going to be in gallons for both those materials, and it is not written on their reporting forms in many cases. So just know that that is the case, and you'll need to convert those numbers from gallons to tons. That is probably our most common find when we do our validation processes. All right, so like I mentioned before, commercial versus industrial, it's not always based on the size of the business, it's more based on the material. So the easiest way I've found, because there's a bit of a gray area here, is pre-consumer versus post-consumer. Anything that never made it customer facing is going to be more most likely considered an industrial process. Things from packaging to leftover scrap material, packaging changes, that a lot of times I've seen this before, like some company will print a bunch of packaging and labels and things, and then they'll switch their marketing, and then they have all this excess stuff that is just in huge pallets that they never use, and they recycle it. That would be more of an industrial process because it never made it. But again, this process, there is a gray area. So if you're unsure, you can feel free to reach out to me and we'll go through the details and figure out where it lands. It can get a little confusing, but we also want to make sure we have accurate numbers. I don't want people putting things as industrial when they're really commercial, because industrial tons are not used when calculating your grant awards, but they are used when calculating your overall recycling rates. So they are still important, even though you're not getting grant funding for them. So, obviously we don't want things put as commercial if they're really industrial, because it does kind of mess up our numbers. So if you have questions, always reach out. Then we have your end market information. Right now, the only required column is the end market name. So we obviously want to know where it's going. End market is kind of where I get most of my questions as far as tonnage grant goes. So end market is going to be wherever the material last changed hands. So that's, you have your generator, then you usually have your hauler, and then you have the facility that the hauler takes the material to. And in a lot of cases, any three of those could be considered the end market. There are big companies that not only generate material, but recycle it themselves. So things like a lot of your power companies, PSE&G, Verizon, a lot of them, a lot of their material they do in-house. They recycle in-house. So you would put them as the end market. Also things kind of like a lot of Walmarts sometimes, but definitely Targets, they recycle their own cardboard in their own internal system. So a lot of times, at least for cardboard, they would be their own end market. Next would be your hauler. Most of the time, I think you could figure out who the hauler is, but you may not always know which facility that hauler takes the material to, in which case then your hauler would be your end market. Haulers are not required to submit reports to towns unless they take the material out of state. It's the facilities that they take their material to that are required to report to you every year by March 1st. So, but if you're just not sure, of where the material goes, again, hauler would be okay. Facility would be better if you have it. Although none of the rest of this end market information is required, if you have it, we ask that you enter it in, especially if you're already asking for it. That's great. The more information we have, the better. If you're only going to do, the minimum that's required, I do ask that you can at least focus on end market state, because if we can't get the rest of the information, at least we know we're able to look into like what stays in state versus leaves the state. So that's what we ask for, at least if you can. And then the last bit at the bottom here are the tabs at the bottom of the Excel spreadsheet. Like your team already mentioned, they have, for those that use that one facility, they have their own conversions. That's fine. If you need to use ours, the conversions are here. The first one that says conversions is all your conversions for different material types. Like I said, pounds, gallons, cubic yards, all those kind of things are put there, broken down by different material type. And then we also have single stream. So if you have a single stream number, you just need to put that number in the top left corner of that tab, and it will break it down into 9 different numbers. The first are materials 1 through 8, which are your bottles and cans and paper and cardboard. And then the last one is a residue number. That number represents the contamination mixed in with the recyclables. That number you do not put on your report. I've seen some times where people will put those single stream numbers into the report, and that'll be followed by a process residue, which is one of our material types, but that is not the same thing. The residue on the single stream and the other tabs means contamination, and you just leave that off your report. Don't put that in. And then your next 2 are for if you have dual stream. There's a commingled one versus a paper one, so you have the different breakouts. The last thing is a measure amount. I don't know if a lot of people use this, but it's been there forever. It's mostly for things like, big piles of leaves or, compost or something. If you need to get an estimated weight, this is something we have here. All right, so that is the basic overview of the tonnage report form. The next one on the list is going to be your expenditure form, which is another Excel. This one is much simpler Excel. So again, you're going to have to enable things because we have like drop downs and other things built in. So you'll need to enable it, save it. Again, please label it starting with your municipality name and then whatever the document is. The example I have here is 2023 expenditures. At the top of this form, you'll see here you just need to enter your county and your municipality with the drop downs. And then you're going to put in your 2020 grant award amount. We do get a lot of questions here because, as you can see in the top left, it says 2020 grant amount. And then in the middle section here, it says 2023 expenditures. So the reason for this is because we're asking how you spent tonnage grant money during 2023. And during 2023 is when you got the 2020 grant award checks. So that's the award you got in that calendar year. It was just for your 2020 recycling. So people sometimes see this and think it's a mistake, but it is not. So we ask for your last grant award check from that year, just so we have something to compare. When we're looking at how much you spent, we'll see how much you get maybe on an average year. This is not meant to be any sort of audit. We're not going to be adding up anything, and we don't need copies of receipts or anything like that. So this is just because we give out many millions of dollars every year for this program, and people ask us what people are spending it on, and we like to be able to go back and get an idea of what the money is going towards in New Jersey. Like I mentioned before, there are links embedded in here. So you'll have a link here that'll take you to the recycling statistics page. At the bottom of that page, it says payout schedule. You can go to 2020 and see what your grant award was if you're not able to find that right away. That's just an easy reference for you. That page also has all of your recycling information as far as data, final reports from previous years, recycling rates from previous years. That's all there. And like I said, it doesn't have to be, you know, every penny. We're just looking for, you know, what you purchased, about how much you spent on it. And then if you want to put anything in the comments just to let us know, that's fine. You know, if you have a vendor you want to tell us about, or just information on what the item was, that's totally fine. A lot of the common ways people spend this were already mentioned earlier, so I won't go through that. But those are the, you know, things like salary and carts and collection services are really common. And that's it for that report. It's a pretty short report. The next two application documents are both PDFs. The first one is your certification form, which I did mention earlier. This form is meant to be filled out and signed by your mayor. Like I mentioned before, we have the standards for municipalities, which lays out the rules and responsibilities of being an MRC and what is required of you by the state. And I want every year the mayors of these towns to have to read through that, remember what's required, and hopefully allow you to do the things you need to do, and give you the power to do those things to be successful in your positions. So the goal of this is to have your mayor look at it, read the standards for municipalities, which you can now download separately from our website. It's about 3.5 pages. It's pretty short read. So they just need to sign, date this, and then you'll scan it in to the computer. Again, save as your municipality name, and then that is the certification, and send that to us. Some people ask, like, does it have to be the mayor? Yes, it does, except for those cases where your town doesn't have a mayor by title. If you look at the top here, it says the language in the guide is mayor or equivalent if you don't have a mayor title. So there are some very small towns that have residents instead of mayors, or maybe they have like a lead council member instead. So in those cases, we will allow that as well. But in every other case, it does have to be the mayor. And the last document is your statement of intent. So this changes a little bit every other year. It goes into two parts. So you have your compliance and then you have your intent. So under compliance, you're going to confirm that you completed your required tasks from the year before. So that in this case, 2023. And then in the intent section, it's saying that you intend to complete the tasks of the following year. In this case, it's 2024, which also serves kind of as a reminder saying, hey, don't forget this is what's required of you in the upcoming year. So for this year's application, you're going to let us know that you attended at least one county-held recycling meeting during 2023. We just need to know what county's meeting you went and the date of that. And then under intent, it'll remind you that in 2024, you have to do that again, go to a county-held meeting, which you're at right now. And then also attend, do either personally or, you know, virtually in some cases, you know, you want to go visit at least one Class A recycling facility during 2024. So that's an even year requirement. So every other year you have to do that. We usually recommend trying to go to a facility where your town's material is taken, if possible. That is not required, but it's always it's a strong recommendation because it's best to see where your material is going, and then you get a good idea of, you know, what your material looks like. So that's why we ask you guys to go. So another note for this document, it is meant for the MRC of your town, whether you're certified or not. This has nothing to do with the CRP certification or the signature on the tonnage report. So you do not have to be the certified person submitting the application to complete these tasks or fill out this form. In a lot of cases in the past, if, you know, say your county or another town was acting as your CRP because you didn't have a certified person on staff, that CRP would submit their copy of the statement of intent. And if that, say that CRP was signing off on 4 or 5 towns, we'd get 4 or 5 copies of their statement of intent, and that's not what we need. We need someone from every town, certified or not, to complete these tasks so that every town has the knowledge that they gain from completing these activities. So if it's not in this screenshot, but at the bottom of this form, it does state that again as a reminder. So if you need anything in writing, it says it at the bottom of this form. So again, you'll sign and date this, and then scan it, save it as your municipality name, and then what the document is. Another question I get about this form is sometimes you'll have someone maybe who left or retired, who did complete last year's tasks, but obviously they're not going to be working there this year. And they may no longer work there at all, and which is totally fine. So you would just put their information in the compliance section, and then if there's hopefully a new person taking over that position, you would put their information in the intent section, and then they would sign this document. So that is a fairly common thing that happens. So that is fine as well. If you have any issues with this, if there were any issues with completing things last year, please try to get to me as early as you can. Don't wait until the applications are due. If you're having any complications, reach out earlier and as early as you can, and we'll figure out what to do. I always try to work with people. I don't like to hold up grants because, you know, something happened and you couldn't attend a meeting last year. So always reach out to me as early as possible, and I'll try to work with you on that. So now we're just going to go over quickly the actual application submission. So the email is tonnagegrant@dep.nj.gov. You're going to put your town's name in the subject line, and you'll see here you have 4 separate attachments. We want to make sure there's always 4 attachments. You have 2 Excels and 2 PDFs. They're all named starting with your municipality name. This is a slightly older screenshot, so they do say 2021, but they should say 2023. And like you see here, there are 2 PDF attachments. So there are a lot of cases where people will scan the PDFs, the 2 different documents together. So it's like a 2-page PDF. But we cannot accept that because they are not saved in the same folders on our end. So you need to make sure you scan them separately into 2 separate PDF documents. And then in the body of the email, we ask a little bit of information. We want your contact information, obviously if you have questions. If a CRP is submitting on behalf of someone, we also want the other person's information from the town. Because again, they're the person we're going to reach out to if we have questions. If you chose other material not listed in the dropdown on the tonnage report, let us know what that material is in the body of the email so we know how to calculate that. Also, if you know that something you've submitted is a lot higher than previous years, you know, maybe you had a big storm, so your brush and tree parch is going to be really, really high. Or if you've done a ton of construction, so your concrete and asphalt numbers are going to be really high. If you let us know ahead of time in this email that, hey, this happened and this number is going to be high, then we don't have to reach out to you later during validation. So it'll just, you know, I don't have to bother you as much and we can get that done here. And just to say again, please enter your municipality information in your subject. There are a lot of cases where I'll get an email from someone whose town is not part of their email. There's nothing about it in the subject. None of the attachments are named correctly, and there's no information in the body of the email. And I look at this email and I have no idea what town it's from until I open up all the attachments. So please make sure you include municipality information in the subject and the body. So like we mentioned earlier, applications are due April 30th of this year. So please get them to me by then. Earlier is better, especially if you want a quick response from me that everything's been accepted. Once we get to the week of the application due date, you know, I come into the office with 300, 400, 500 emails. and I go at them at the order they came in. So if you want a quick response, get me, get everything in a little bit earlier. And again, you do have until June 15th to resubmit your tonnage report, so we can allow for late responses to you guys. I know people submit stuff after April 30th a lot, and it can be frustrating. So as long as you get all 4 documents to me on time by April 30th, then you have the chance to resubmit later, if anything comes in. And in that case, you only need to resubmit the tonnage report. You don't have to send the other documents. We erase your old version and then replace it with the new one. So just keep adding anything that comes in after you submit to the bottom of that spreadsheet, and just resubmit it, and we'll delete it and then replace it. And oh, and that still does have to be submitted by the CRP that's signing in if you resubmit. So if you have questions, again, not only this time of year, but any time during the year about tonnage grant applications, how to spend the money, a lot of times people send me specific projects and ask if it's okay. You can always reach me at tonnagegrant@dep.nj.gov, or you can give us a call. This is our bureau line. Just let them know you have a tonnage grant question. And I think that is it. So that's it for this presentation. I don't see any questions in the chat, but if you do, feel free to enter them now.
I do see one hand raised. Robin, do you have a question? Or anybody else want to raise their hand, and I could try and unmute you, or if you want to put something in the chat. Okay. Here we go. Erin, can you see that?
Yes. So the motor oil company I mentioned earlier was Lorco. It's kind of the most common one I see. And someone asked about the presentation. Yeah, I think Anthony said it would be posted on their website. And again, you can also get it on the Tonnage Grant website as a PDF.
All the PowerPoints from today's meeting, we'll post that on the MRC subpage of our website. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Erin. As always, great information. I hope everybody learned a lot today. We're going to take a quick 10-minute break. Don't log off, because we need to track your attendance. So, all right, let's come back at 11:15. All right, we'll move right into our next presenter. So again, don't log off, and we'll see you in a little bit.